It's going great. Thanks for coming on the show, Up Close and On Fire with Lucia and Glenn. I've heard a lot about you guys from the one and only Jasper.
Yeah, Jasper's the man. I hope it's all good things.
Oh, of course it's always good things. So, is it Skarthia or is it Skarthia?
So it's pronounced Skarthia, and it's just we came up with that name maybe 15 years ago.
15 years? How'd you do that?
So I can't take credit for that personally. We had a drummer at the time who he was really big on World of Warcraft and all those kind of fantasy games.
Yeah.
And he just loved some of the terminology they used and some of the naming structures they used, and he sort of put a bunch together. And then this was one name that he just put forward to us, and we said, you know what, that just sounds really cool. And so we started using it. Yeah.
You guys are from London. I was just there in November, December.
Oh, beautiful sunny London. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful sunny London. But you know what? It was great up until my husband lost his wallet and his phone all on the same trip.
Wow, that is I gotta say that's impressive actually. To do it all at once.
Why do you say that?
Well, because you lose your wallet, fine, because you misplace it as a separate piece.
No,
but
he didn't misplace
keys
it.
as well.
He got pickpocketed twice on the trip.
With more hands on than we make ourselves out to be here in the UK, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, I hope it worked out all right in the end.
It did. Everything got replaced, so all good stuff. But
I'm glad to
how
hear
have you guys been doing since the pandemic?
It's been a whirlwind ride, I guess. From a band perspective, obviously we just recently put out the new album, and that was completed during the pandemic. So for us, it was a really useful time to be locked away because we actually got to complete it. It's just such a relief to be able to put it out, and people are really giving us some great feedback on it, so it was all worth it. I guess life is back to what normal was a couple of years ago to a certain extent. Everyone's out and about, gigs are on again, it's great.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, were you guys one of the first ones that went into lockdown when this all started? I know Italy was one of them when I was talking to Stage of Reality earlier today.
Sure. I don't know if we were one of the first. I remember it being March the 15th of 2020.
Okay, so because that was 20, right?
20, yeah. Yes, yeah. So that was when did you guys go into the pandemic?
Well, the only thing I remember of 20 was my husband and I came down with it for 19 days in November. So that was later on in the game, but it was definitely out there.
Yeah. No, I felt something towards the end of March. I was ill for a good few days, and I was sitting at home trying to get some work done, and I just kept passing out, and I couldn't help. And I just thought, this is not a normal flu. This is
No. Did they lock the whole country down and everything?
They locked the whole country down several times. They kept saying, it's only going to last a week or two. It's not going to be too long. And then, then it goes on for months. And then at one point they realized that restaurants and small businesses rather, were losing money. Yeah. And so the government created an incentive asking people to go out and eat out, and we'll give you £10 towards your meal.
Wow, well, that was nice.
Yes, until they put us back in behind the cages again.
I do have to say, when I was out there in London, I enjoyed Harry Potter Land. That was really cool.
Warner Brothers Studio. Yeah, I've always been meaning to go.
God. I have not watched one video. I didn't watch one movie, nothing. My stepdaughter is a diehard, and she said, you have to watch it. So I watched Goblets of Fire, and I was like, where have I been?
Yeah, it's something I grew up with. Goblet of Fire, I remember that's the first book I actually bought, but we had the first book read to us in school. So I was clued up, and I knew what was going on.
Wow,
it's Christmas time just passed, so that meant that we went through all the films again. It's funny you bring that up.
That's Wild. So your new album is called Retaliate. So if you had to explain your band to somebody who couldn't hear and only could see it, how would you explain it?
Right. So the new album is Legacy. The first album was Retaliate.
Okay.
If I was to describe the sound, it's a controlled chaos. Is probably the best way to describe
right
it.
Up my alley.
It's I don't know, maybe someone would listen and disagree with my assessment of it, but that's kind of how I've always seen it.
No, I don't disagree because I listened to it before I called you on the interview. So believe me, you are right on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. I'm glad it comes across that way. It's always been quite a personal and intimate approach to songwriting and the way we've designed the songs. And obviously it's metal, there's nothing special about it in that sense, but the care that we've put into the songs and the thought that's gone into it, I think that's what's special about it. We sort of looked at all the different kind of sounds that you have and used it as a palette rather than, this is the verse, this is the chorus, and now comes the breakdown, which we do have a little bit of. But when it fits and it sounds good. And so that's why some songs are very straightforward, and some songs it's just one change here, one change there, one change here, one change there, and it just keeps on rolling. The song number 3 on the album, Knives, is a really good example of that. It's just riff after riff after riff after riff. And I guess that's kind of the way my mind works. And when the rest of the band comes into it, there's that extra wide-ranging perspective on, yeah, you know what, that works, let's go with it, or hang on, maybe we should rein that in a little bit. I guess the other side of it is that it's not every song is exactly the same in terms of the style. And so you wouldn't really know what we sound like until you actually give a couple of songs a listen. And I know that's a lot to ask for, especially with people's time these days. But I would suggest listen to three or four songs before you decide.
I know what that's all like, because I recently did it as I want to say a dare. Somebody dared me, I dare you to try to release an album. And I actually got 3 songs written, and I actually released a mini album, which it's being retweaked as we speak, because there's some covers in there too. And then there's a 4th one that, I'm being told, well, no, you can't have it in the style of Anthrax. We want you to put it in this one. It's like, no, it's got to be Anthrax thrash metal.
Yeah, exactly. But that's it. At the end of the day, what is the goal? Why are you doing it? If there's a passion for you in putting out the album, putting the music together, then it's to please yourself. You're doing it for yourself. You're expressing yourself. It's something inside you that you're like, this needs to come out like this, but someone will listen to that music and they'll perceive it and they'll instill it and say, this reminds me of Anthrax. I love Anthrax. We need more Anthrax, and that's okay. That's normal. That's how I first started getting into writing music. Was I'd listen to bands and I'd listen to their songs and I'd love it. And I'd think to myself, what, this is great. But if it had a little bit more of Machine Head in it, or if we had a little bit more Deftones here, and, that's kind of the way that we develop. And so I would say to you, think about album 2 or 3 or 4, even now, even if they're short 3-4 song albums, go for it, because by making mistakes, so to speak, you're actually growing and learning. We've done that a hell of a lot over our journey.
Great. And the reviews, like your album reviews, like, my God, like, it's like, am I dealing with a big name band here? Or am I dealing with an independent artist?
That's really kind of you to say. Yeah. And we've been really lucky with that.
I'm the kind of person, and I don't even know what got me into doing indie music back when I was 21, but I think it was back when, I was running radio stations and I was running my podcast and I was interviewing bands all over the world. And then I was doing interviews like this, where I would be, I was at the Rockstar Energy Drink and I got to interview bands like Sister Sin, Jungle Rot, and all that stuff. And I just started getting into it. But, when I listen to the new cover, like the new big name artists now, it's like,
It's true. I totally relate to you. Most of the music that I listen to now is pre 2006 or 7, I would say. There are very few new albums that I listen to. I guess maybe that might be an age thing as well, but I do think that it's kind of lost its way. I've had this sort of crazy argument in my mind. that music used to be about expressing an emotion or a message, but now it's about experiences. Now it's about, look how cool this section of the song is and how it makes you feel, and you just move on from that. And it's like, well, hang on a second. There's what about the depth behind it? What about, I want more than just the feeling that I get if I was to go into a club and hear a standard four to the floor, just boom, boom, boom. Like, yeah, it's a feeling, and it might be good for the time, but it's like, I'm listening to songs. I want to hear songs. I want to hear music. I don't want experiences. Yeah, maybe that's the way it is.
It could be. So what do you guys like to do for fun when you're not doing music?
So I can't speak for everyone, but from my perspective, I'm involved in cyber, so that's generally what keeps me up day to day. Outside, skateboarding is again something I took up in the pandemic. I'm not great at it, but it's like a godsend some days, just to take you out of life and just sort of refresh and reboot your brain, and then get back into it. You're good to go.
Great.
Yeah. I know my wife, who also plays guitar in the band. She's a spinning instructor now. The fitness thing came in through the pandemic as well. I told you the pandemic was really good for all of us. So she's off teaching a class at the moment, for example. That's why she can't be here.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, no, I know about that pandemic stuff. Middle of pandemic, my husband and I bought a house 40 minutes outside the city, and it's like a complete winter wonderland up here. It's like there's nobody around. It's just animals. There's houses up the road, down the road. It's like, people in the city, they're like, oh, we didn't get no snow today. And I'm like, come to my city. Winter wonderland up here.
That's a big commitment. That's a big commitment to move out from the city. So as long as it's worked out for you and you're enjoying it, because there's a lot of pros to that. Sometimes I wish I lived like that as well, but alas.
So if somebody were to come to London, of course, I've been there already. If somebody wants to come to London, what are you gonna recommend for them to do? Like, what would you recommend them see?
This is the hardest question to ask a local, because you live here, and because it's available to you, you forget about it. You say, I can just go to it whenever I want. You mentioned the Harry Potter experience.
Yeah, that was great.
It's up the road. I can just go whenever I want. Never been.
How they built that, it's just so incredible. Like all the stuff from the actual movies, and you actually like get to relive some of the experiences with the green screen effects. It's like, oh my God.
I actually have a friend who, I think some of those are from the actual sets. I have a friend who works in the studios. They're building some of those sets. He plays for a band called Secrium, also another London band worth checking out.
Nice.
And yeah, it's no small job from what I've heard. And yeah, I've heard again, it's really impressive, but I've never been. And so if I was to recommend to someone where to go in London, it's just, well, what are you into? What do you want? If you want a cool pub to go to or something like that, then come down to Camden, check out the Dev as your standard go-to metal bar.
Glastonbury too, right?
Sorry, what was that one?
Glastonbury too, right?
Glastonbury, yeah. So that's much bigger, much harder to get into that sort of festival. I mean that from a punter perspective, not even from a band perspective. People are fighting over tickets for that.
I can just imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Do crowdsource for tickets out there like they did out here for Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I mean, the whole ticketing system's it's kind of a shambles. I think the whole music industry in itself is still stuck in the 90s, and they haven't done anything to adjust for the new lifestyle that people live. They didn't. I didn't think they moved for the internet. I don't think they moved for post CDs. Nope. With Spotify coming in and all that. Yeah, and I think the ticketing side of things is just another symptom of the much bigger problem. Yeah.
So where can people find your stuff? We've got Instagram, we've got YouTube, we've got Facebook. Anywhere else I'm missing? Yeah,
no, the Bandcamp, and we're everywhere. So just search Skarthia, Skarthia, and we'll pop up somewhere. Find us. don't worry about paying for our music as well. I know some people don't have it that easy.
Yeah.
Our main goal is really just to put it out there. And so you can listen for free on Spotify, listen for free on YouTube, just enjoy it. We put a lot of hard work into it, and the more people that it brings joy to, the better that is for us. That's all we're here for.
Well, it was wonderful speaking with you. Thank you for.
And with you, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Any band of Jaspers is a great friend of mine. So.
Yeah, and pass my regards on to him when you next speak to him.
Oh, of course,
big supporter of us.
You'll see an interview with him too. He's not getting away just yet.
I'll have the notification ready.
There you go. It was great talking to you. You take care.